Pentagon's European command says the Russian airplanes targeted an unmanned American MQ-9 Reaper drone that was flying in international airspace over the Black Sea. The two Su-27 fighter jets conducted what the U.S. calls an unsafe and unprofessional intercept with the U.S. Air Force drone. They say one of the Russian jets struck the propeller of the U.S. drone, which forced U.S. operators to bring the drone down in international waters in the Black Sea. Now that came just after the Russian jets had dumped fuel on and flew in front of the drone in what the U.S. side calls a reckless, environmentally unsound manner. The American military says the incident demonstrates a lack of competence on the Russian side, and the United States also says Russian pilots have engaged in a pattern of dangerous actions over the Black Sea, which the Pentagon says are dangerous and could lead to miscalculation and unintended escalation. The MQ-9 drone is made by General Atomics, and it's mostly operated by the U.S. Air Force for long endurance, high altitude surveillance missions. The Pentagon says U.S. aircraft will continue to operate in international airspace.
Okay, thank you, newsman, for doing my job for me. There you had the whole story explained. But basically, it appears as if Russia did shoot down a US drone. And it was a fighter jet that shot it down. And currently the United States is trying to get back their drone because that's a few schools right there now in the Black Sea. You know, we could use that money back here. Oh God. So this is Air Force General James Hecker explaining what happened. He says our MQ-9 aircraft was conducting routine operations in international airspace. It was intercepted and hit by Russian aircraft, resulting in a crash and complete loss of the MQ-9. The MQ-9 drone system, in case you're not familiar, is designed to collect intelligence and carry out reconnaissance missions and is manufactured by General Atomics Aeronautics Systems. The remotely piloted system can carry a combination of Hellfire missiles, Joint Direct Attack Munitions, or JDAMs. JDAMs, good God. Pentagon press spokesperson, US Air Force Brigadier General Pat Ryan declined to say if the drone was armed. Now, that I think is pretty key. However, this was international waters. And it does appear that the fighter jets were like kind of messing with this drone. Like they did dump fuel on it. And then it appears that the way that the drone actually fell was that one of the fighter jets like hit it and then it fell. So it might not have necessarily been downed on purpose. So let's just jump ahead to the Russian military's defense, Ministry of Defense said its two fighter aircraft did not come into contact with the US drone. In other words, it fell to its own death. In a statement posted on its official Telegram channel, the ministry said the drone was flying with its transponders off near the Crimean Peninsula when it went into, quote, unguided flight and then fell into the water. Okay. However, it does seem like it was deliberate. So there was a collision. Now, just so you guys remember, Russia did annex the peninsula of Crimea on the Black Sea. So this is all, they might say it's not international waters. They might say, no, that's ours. But what do you, Jayar? It doesn't appear that the United States is going to retaliate. But Ned Price, the State Department spokesperson, says they're engaged at senior levels. They're talking to him. They're shaking their finger vigorously.
I'm trying to figure out how often these types of things happen. First of all, because there's always drones or we talked about the spy balloon over the United States and China and all that stuff. How often these types of things happen without it having so much media coverage or political implications, or then when we start to find politicians and pundits talk about these things so much that then go, because what I'm hearing as a direct result of this is not how did this happen, what is it, under what circumstances could this have happened, what kind of information was this drone potentially collecting or surveying or whatever reasons that it was there. I feel like none of that's really been discussed in depth because I guess it's too boring for everyone else. Instead, we have to talk about whether or not we should go into war, because that's all I'm seeing. Yeah. And people talking about, what would Ronald Reagan do? Stuff like that. That's where we go instead of talking about why. Because obviously the vast majority of us are not involved with the procedures going in this, why this drone is over those waters. Maybe even why that they consider the Russians aircraft shot it down or collided with it or whatever it was. all that information doesn't matter because all we're worried about is what are we gonna do about it? Look how weak everyone is. And that's where we boiled it all down to just that. And that's the biggest illustration of our knowledge of our foreign policy, what it is we're involved in, and what we should do when something like this happens. So maybe we shouldn't be trying to tell people what to do when we don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, what's interesting about this is it doesn't fit the right-wing narrative, right? And we're gonna get to that after the break. The right, sides with Russia largely, right? They believe that Ukraine started the war, that Biden started this war. And so you're not hearing Marjorie Greene, at all get upset about the downing of a US drone, at least not yet. I mean, she might find a way to spin it, because that would imply that we should be, rightfully standing up to Russia. Instead, it is, oh yeah, what about the Chinese balloon, this balloon, and the China. Now again, as Jayar said, I'm not advocating that we necessarily retaliate. I'm like, yay, one less drone in the sky. To be totally honest with you, I don't want any drones, and definitely not armed drones. Which, if they're declining to say whether it was armed or not, it probably was armed. And so these are the kind of ridiculous things that can spin us out into a hot war. You could argue we are in a cold war vis-a-vis, a proxy war vis-a-vis Ukraine between us and Russia. But here you have just like drones out there willy-nilly. How many drones are out there? How many drones could potentially start just a little spark that is necessary for a full-blown war? So I mean, I feel like we're in this moment where average Americans have no control over, hell, the military budget, number one, but two, definitely these armed drones that are flying out there. And yet we might be one day called up to fight a war that started because an unmanned drone got, fuel dumped on its head.
Yeah, we always talk about the triggers that happened in history with wars and the small things that potentially happen and misunderstandings and all that. But by the way, Francesca, you asked, and just a quick search, maybe not this particular one, maybe there's other elements to it. Each of these MQ-9s, roughly $32 million.
Stop it, come on.
How many schools? I don't know, maybe a couple, I guess.
Yeah, Christ.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.